In this video, you will learn how to solve triangles using law of cosines. In previous lessons, you've learned to use sine, cosine, and tangent that are specific to right triangles. Law of cosines can be used for any triangle. The law of cosines states c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cosine of big C, and big C is the angle. If you know Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, the beginning of the law of cosines looks just like Pythagorean theorem. You now only need to remember the minus 2ab, so the a and the b are the sides, cosine of big C. So big C is like the side that's going to be opposite of the little c. So let's look at this in our first example. We're going to find side FD. So FD is here. We're going to call that little e. Law of cosine works when you have two sides of the triangle and the angle included between those two sides. So to solve for this missing side, that's going to be our little c in the law of cosines. So our missing side is little c. So let's set that up. E squared equals, the a and the b do not matter which side you call a and which side you call b, as long as they're on each side of the angle that you know. So I'm going to let 16.8 be my a squared, plus I'm going to let the 18 be my b, so 18 squared, minus 2 times a times b. So you're going to use this 16.8 and the 18 again. So minus 2 times a times b cosine of big C. So big C is the angle that is included between those sides of the triangle. So cosine of 12. So check and make sure you have everything set up correctly. Your a and b should show up here for a squared and b squared, as well as here after the minus 2 times ab. And then cosine of your angle C goes there at the end. So once you set it up, you're able to punch all that in the calculator. With this whole unit, we've made sure that our calculator is in the correct mode, so do that again. Hit the mode key. If degrees is not highlighted, be sure to arrow down and select that mode. So here we have 16.8 squared plus 18 squared minus 2 times 16.8 times 18 times cosine of 12. That gives us 14.65, so when we round, that gives us 14.7. It is best, since that was a lot to type in, to make sure that it's correct by maybe typing it in again or even arrowing through and making sure that you typed everything in correctly. So if we try this one more time just to make sure we didn't miss any buttons, we do see that it is the same. So 14.7, just rounded to the nearest tenth. But notice we've only solved for e squared. We want to know the side e, or what we've labeled as e is the side FD. So the opposite of squaring something is taking the square root. You will only need the positive square root. You will not need the plus and minus square root, because we're talking about lengths of a triangle and they can only be positive. So when you take the square root of 14.7, so second square root 14.7, we find that the length of this side is 3.8. So FD is 3.8. Let's look at example 2. This time we're going to find the length of AC. So AC is here. I'm going to call it little b. We know we can use law of cosines because we have the angle that is included between two sides of the triangle. So this means we can use law of cosines. So little b squared is going to equal the two sides, it doesn't matter the order of those, so I'm going to say 5 squared plus 7 squared minus 2 times, again, those sides, so 5 and 7, cosine of our angle, so cosine of 100. The first part of it looks like Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Again, don't worry about the letters. I know usually with Pythagorean theorem, this is a little c. If that bothers you, change this to something else. Maybe use x. So the beginning of it looks like Pythagorean theorem. And then just remember it's minus 2 times your AB, cosine of your angle. So now let's type that in the calculator. So we have 5 squared plus 7 squared minus 2 times 5 times 7, and then we'll do cosine of our angle. We get 86.2 when we round. So x squared, or if you wanted to leave it as b squared, whatever variable you use there does not matter. So 86.2 for x squared. But notice we've not solved for x by itself. We need to take the square root of both sides. Squaring and square root cancel one another. So that's going to get x by itself. Once we take that square root, we'll find our missing side. So 86.2 when we take the square root is 9.3. So our side that we were looking for AC is 9.3. So let's look at example 3. It was originally labeled 4, but it is example 3. We're going to find the measure of angle S. Well, notice we have enough information to find side SR. Once we know that side SR, we're going to be able to set up law of sines. We have our side and angle that's opposite of each other, and we need to find an angle with an opposite side that is given. So once we find SR, we can use law of sines to find our missing angle. You could use law of cosines to find this missing angle, but law of sines is so much easier, especially when using it to find a missing angle. So we're going to just use the law of sines once we get to that step. So let's first find SR. Let's call it Y. You can call it any letter you'd like. So we're going to set up y squared equals the two sides that are on either side of the angle. So we have 42 and 30. Again, it does not matter the order that you put those sides. Minus 2 times, again, those two sides. So 42 and 30. And then we'll say cosine. This is law of cosines. So do cosine of our angle. So once we do all of that to find our side SR, we'll be able to move forward to find our angle. So let's do 42 squared plus 30 squared minus 2 times 42 times 30 times cosine of 80. So again, just carefully typing that in. If you need to type it in again, or just arrow through and make sure that everything is typed in correctly. We get 2,226.4. So remember, that is y squared. So we need to take the square root. Take the square root in order to find our missing side. Oh, I'm missing a number there. 26.4. There we go. So we get 47.2. So that's for the missing side. So now that we have an angle and a side that are opposite one another, and we're asked to find an angle that is opposite a given side, that's actually law of sines. So let's set that up. We can do sine of 80 over 47.2 is going to equal sine of S over 30. We can cross multiply. So I'm going to come over here. We get 30 sine of 80 equals 47.2 sine of S. When we divide by 47.2 on both sides, remember to solve for an angle, you're actually going to have to do inverse sine. So the inverse sine will cancel out. Sine and inverse sine cancel out and leave our angle, which that we're asked to solve for, angle S. So let's type that into our calculator. We have inverse sine. Let's do alpha y equals to get our fraction. So inverse sine of 30 sine of 80 divided by 47.2. That gives us 38.8. Well, no, if it's rounded in the nearest whole degree, let's do rounded in the nearest whole degree would be 39 degrees. So the measure of angle S, the one we're asked to find, here's 39 degrees. And if you wanted to, just to find every missing side, angle R, every missing part, I should say, every missing part of the triangle, angle R you could find by taking 180 minus 39 minus 80. 180 minus 39 minus 80 gives us 61 degrees. We weren't asked for that, but why not? It gives us every piece of the triangle.